You know who I am?
Anything you say. Anything you say.
It's official.
What's up, YouTube? Boy, do we have some things to talk about this week. So, the big thing on the news, of course, which is ridiculous, is the whole Trump impeachment thing. Apparently, the Democrats are not wanting to show the public the evidence they want to present naturally, of course, because it's all bogus. And the Republicans are forcing them to try to show the public what's going on. You know, the whole... It's just kind of ironic because a lot of the things that the president's supposed to do is supposed to be considered classified, not supposed to be shown to the public. But then they want to bust open, you know, a phone call or whatever to Ukraine, you know, and make it public when it's not supposed to be. So they showed him the transcripts. They proved it. There was no collusion. He never once asked the Ukraine president for help with the next election at all. But they keep trying to push that there was something going on. There wasn't. So now they're wanting to have a closed door hearing is what it is, to show evidence, but they don't want to allow anyone else to see it. So I think it's ironic that they want the Republicans and the president to be transparent and show everybody everything, but then they don't want to do it themselves. So it's kind of funny. And they're having a big argument about it right now. It's just, I don't know where they're going to go with this. You know, it's obviously a big farce, but whatever. We'll see what happens. Probably the biggest thing that I saw in the news going on is this whole thing with the new Star Wars movie, the Rise of Skywalker or whatever, that they're fixing to come out. They've had so much trouble reshooting this thing, and they know it's not going to work anyway, because they're going to make money off of it. There's no doubt they're going to make some money off of it. Just because everybody is hoping that they've actually gone and fixed the thing. But it's J.J. Abrams. I guarantee it's not going to be fixed, and it's going to be a terrible movie. And I love Star Wars. I love the original Star Wars, let me put it that way. I don't mind the first 6 movies, but these last few movies just been horrible. Nobody cares about the new characters, and the reason why nobody cares about the new characters is because they didn't integrate them into the franchise the proper way. They literally just threw them out there and are killing off all the old characters. So it's been terrible. Anyways, Disney has gone and bought again, just like they did with Captain Marvel. They've gone and bought all the damn Star Wars pre-tickets, you know, for the upcoming movie. They've sold them out. Duh. Like we didn't see that coming, you know. It's not the first time they've done it. And they're trying to say that, you know, people are buying them left and right. No, it's Disney. Disney bought all the tickets. Now they're going to make some money off it, of course. They're good at marketing, but their movies suck anymore. You know, they're pushing a woke agenda and it's not working. It's backfiring them on that because people are sick and tired of it. They're tired of feminism. They're tired of, you know, the alphabet community and whatnot. You know, all these political groups trying to shove an agenda into their movies. They're tired of it. All the PC culture, cancel culture, whatever you want to call it. They're tired of it. People are tired of it. We don't want to see that shit no more in our movies. Get it out of there. And it's gotten really ridiculous where they think they could have a female or a gay character in every single one of their fucking movies. It's fucking retarded. Stop doing it. Nobody wants to see that shit. You know, you want to have a female lead character every now and then. That's fine. You know, there's movies with female lead characters that do just fine. You know, and I don't need to give examples. I mean, people know, like Aliens and, you know, Supergirl, the original Supergirl movie. You know, you know, there's plenty of movies like that. That's, you know, Wonder Woman, even the newest Wonder Woman did really well. So, you know, but they weren't all pushing agendas. You know, fuck that shit. Stop doing that crap. You don't need to have a female lead character and push an agenda. It's just stupid. Makes the movie shitty. Anyways, moving on. That's what's going on with Star Wars. So it's going to be another flop and a doozy. Okay, so I just got done. I'm kind of in between games. I'm usually playing like 2 or 3 different types of games at the same time. I am playing an RPG right now, but it's taken a while only because I keep having to go back and look up the walkthrough online, only because the game doesn't really define what you're supposed to do next. You don't know where you're going. That's a pet peeve of mine. I'll explain it later once I get done with the game. But so it's taken a while to get through it. The other game that I just got done playing, I want to talk about is a game that it's a fighting style game like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and stuff like that. Now I like some fighting games. I don't mind them at all, to a point. My problem with a lot of fighting games, especially your early style fighting games, is that the game designers and developers, you know, they would make it to where the AI was 30 times faster than the player. A lot of times when you're trying to do combos and stuff like that, the buttons you press, the game has a hard time inputting them into your character fast enough. Or you know, when you press the certain buttons, like you got to press 2 or 3 buttons at the same time to get the character to perform a certain move, the game doesn't interpret it fast enough. So from the controller to the game is a little slow, lagging. Whereas the AI, and the game developers know this, the AI is able to perform these moves like this. The AI has no problem getting its input and doing what it needs to do. And you know, the harder the game gets, or let's say it's a tournament battle and you're getting close to the boss. The closer you get to the boss and the final boss, the harder it is to defeat them. Now that's understandable, but at the same time, sometimes they make it to where it's almost impossible to beat them. I mean, you really gotta strategize and pull some wonkers just to beat some of the bosses in fighting games. Now, not all fighting games are like that. They don't make it impossible, especially nowadays. It's not quite impossible all the time. But back in the day, it was. They made them really ridiculous, some of the stuff the bosses could do. Now, the game I'm going to talk to you about today is called Cardinal Syn. It's a PS1 game. It is a fighting game. There were two characters in the game that I really liked. One was called Finkster. He was a thief, and he was a short guy, and he had a couple of daggers that he played with or fought with. Kind of picture Cardinal Syn sort of like, everybody pretty much knows the game Soul Calibur. It's kind of like Soul Calibur, where you're fighting with weapons. The next character in the game that I really liked was called Redemptor. He had some pretty outrageous combos that was really neat to watch him fight. But those were the two characters I really liked playing with in this game. Now, the whole story of the game is, there's, I don't know, so I don't know what you would call him, a wise man, or wisdom soothsayer or whatever, came to the land and talked to all the clans and got them united under the symbol swords, 3 swords or whatever. But then he left, and then they started fighting again. All the clans started fighting again, and then this sorceress out of the blue comes in and starts telling them that we need to hold a tournament to see who's the strongest and who should rule the land. And of course, her whole objective is to kill them off one by one and take over their power or whatever. The whole time she's doing this, she's creating a spell that'll make her even more powerful. The graphics aren't all that great. I mean, it's PS1. They're not horrible. They're just not superb. But you'd still tell what's going on, and the graphics are fairly decent enough. You can still play without worrying about them too much. Fighting wise, a lot of the combos for a lot of the characters are really difficult to pull off. A lot of them start off with like triangle forward or triangle back or something like that. Triangle is your vertical, and then you have your square, which is your horizontal, and then your X, which will do some downward motion, and then your circle button, it performs all your blocks. Now this is one of the first times where they stopped doing the where you just hold back and you're blocking. This is the first time they started it where you had to use a button and you had to press up or down to block high attacks and low attacks, which makes it a little bit more difficult because it's a little harder unless you know all the combos of the other characters. It makes it a lot harder. I didn't so much care for that. I mean, I understand the concept, but I'd still rather have just the back button. Trying to block both up and down all the time, because a lot of combos switch, makes it really, really difficult. I understand they were going for a more realistic approach, but still it makes it way more difficult. And having to use they have a couple moves where if you push forward and your block button, it stuns them for just a split second, or if you press back and your block button, if you time it just right, you can catch him in a mid-move in the combo. It's like a combo breaker, and it grabs him and throws him. A lot of times, you know, you make the mistake of pressing, you know, either for a directional button when you press the circuit button when you just want to block, and it causes, you know, for your character to perform one of those moves when it's not ready to do it. So I had a lot of trouble with that. You know, they should have done something else with that instead of, you know, the same button, because you could screw it up really easily if you're just wanting a plain block. This is also one of them games where they have a shield, so you can't block constantly because the shield will eventually get enough damage and then you're not able to block anymore. So I did like that concept. Anyways, as far as difficulty goes, you know, another thing the game developers used to do is, you know, they put an easy difficulty in there, but it's only easy for the first 2 or 3 characters, maybe 4, and then it starts getting more and more difficult to where it gets really, really hard once you get to the boss. Now the boss, of course, is Syn, but she changes into this dragon called Cron, and he does some unrealistic crap on there. He does a lot of flying, which your character, most of these characters, they don't have a what's called a projectile, you know, your projectile move where you throw some. They don't, not a lot of them. I think 1 or 2 of them, you know, could hit him when he's in the air, but the rest of them cannot. You have to wait till he comes back down to the ground. And he has Cron has this ability to fly and hit you while he's flying. He's able to, he constantly does this thing where he drops 3 fire bombs on you, and you got to try to run around and keep from getting hit by that. But it's just, he's ridiculous. The boss character is ridiculous on that game. One thing I absolutely hated about this particular game. A lot of times you'll knock an opponent down. You're supposed to have this move that allows you to stab them while they're on the ground or kick them or whatever, and then if you do it right, you could hit them twice while they're on the ground. However, it don't matter how fast you are trying to get that move on the last 3 characters you got to fight, and that includes the boss. They're popping up 10 times faster than you can get this move off, which is impossible. They're doing it. Your character, no matter how many buttons you press or whatever, you can't pop up that fast. But the computer, the AI can. They can pop up just as soon as they land on the ground. You can't do that. So it's a little bit ridiculous and a little bit, like I said, developers, you know, when they first were doing fighting games, they were making them rather incredibly difficult to defeat them. Another part of the game I really didn't care for all that much was they didn't have a throw command on any of the characters. None of them had throws, unless you consider the throw that you have when you're able to push back and block the block button, you know, and it interrupts a combo and they'll throw them. That's about the only throw you really got. Instead, they have a button that in place of a throw that they call the shove command, where basically you're supposed to be able to grab the character and push him and turn him around, and it gives your character a split second to start a combo or opening for your character to start a combo on him. However, I had a real hard time trying to use that button. It would not interpret when I would press that button into the game. So the shove button just never worked at all. I hardly ever could get it to work. It was very rare. Yet the AI constantly uses it on you all the time. Especially when you're getting up and they block your move or whatever. When you're getting up, if you're trying to perform a move, they'll block it and then they'll shove you into a wall or something. And this is one of the very first games where they allow the background to interact with you. So there's dangers in the background, and if they shove you into just a plain wall, you're going to bounce off the wall, and you're like taking damage. But yeah, the AI uses this button constantly. You, on the other hand, I promise you're going to have difficulty trying to use the shove button. I hardly ever even used it because of that. Overall, though, the game was actually really good. I liked the game and the concept of the game. I just didn't like I said, with most earlier fighting games, that the AI is able to perform some ridiculous combos and stuff on you that you can't perform fast enough. Certain moves and stuff you can't do it yourself, and that's where the developers get a little ridiculous. They should make it to where the AI can only perform it as fast as the player can, but they don't do that because they want to make the boss extremely difficult, and you have to figure out a certain strategy to defeat the boss instead of just outright fighting them. But anyways, the game's pretty good for the most part. If you like fighting style games, like I said, it's a little bit different because it has weapons in it. Early fighting games didn't have a lot of weapons in them. You didn't find many that have weapons in them. Some of them, but not a whole lot. But if you like fantasy style fighting games, this is definitely your type of game. Check it out. Okay, all you movie holics, let's move on to your B-rated movies reviews. First one I'm going to talk about was done in 1983. I never heard of it. I just came across it and I was like, I'll check that out. It's a movie called Vigilante. Now, the reason why I took an interest in this movie from just the title is because it kind of reminded me of the Death Wish. And I saw the new Death Wish not too long ago with Bruce Willis. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't nearly as good as the originals with Charles Bronson. I'd watched the original Death Wish years ago, so this, I don't remember much about it, although I remember it was a pretty good movie. But when I saw, the title to this, that's what made me think of. And once I read up on a little bit on it to see what it was about, I said, all right, I'll check this out. I'll watch that. That sounds interesting. Now, this movie starred Robert Foster and Fred Williams. Both are, they're known. They're recognizable, especially for that era. At the box office, it did mediocre. Only did about $6 million. For back then, that was all right. It was a B-rated movie, so it didn't do too bad for what it was. Being an action film. Basically, the story is this gang comes. It's pretty similar to Death Wish. This gang comes around and they kill this guy's son, and they didn't kill his wife, but they really cut her up. They did a number on her. And Fred Williams, he's kind of he keeps trying to push the neighborhood to start up a vigilante group, kind of like a neighborhood watch group, but more aggressive, because the gangs are getting out of control and the police won't do anything about them. Anyway, Robert Foster, he tries to go through the law, through the court system, and they don't do anything. In fact, they let them go. The criminals that killed his son, they got paid off. The judge and the prosecutor both got paid off. So this sets him, it ticks him off, and he throws a fit right in the courtroom. You know, how could they let him go when the evidence shows that he's the killer? So the judge puts him in prison for I think a few weeks or something like that, for disrupting the court. He gets it back out, and he tells his buddy, Fred Williams, tells him, he says, I want to get these suckers. So they go after him. He shoots one guy and finds out the leader, which was the leader of the gang. He finds out he wasn't really the killer. He did his wife, but he found out that the one who killed his son was this, this black guy that was like second in command of the gang or whatever. So he goes after him and he kills him too. And then, at the very end of the movie, it shows him kill the prosecutor and the judge, and then he takes off, and that's the end of the movie. He gets his revenge, and he moves. He leaves the city. It was an alright movie. It wasn't a bad movie for what it was, and I totally understand where he was coming from. Nobody wanted to do anything, help him out, none of that, so he just kind of took the law in his own hands. Sometimes the law will fail you. A lot of criminals get away with a lot of crap. It was a good movie. Not bad for what it was. If you like some really good action flicks, definitely give this a try. I give it 2 thumbs up. Good movie. The next movie I want to talk about is called Gymkata. It's kind of a martial arts film. It was done in 1985. It starred Kurt Thomas and Tichi Abiyani. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. It made about $6 million at the box office. Again, it wasn't like, make great money, but it was okay for what it did, for a B-rated movie. Now this movie, wow, this movie here, I thought I'd give it a chance. It just sounded a little bit strange, but I figured, I'll go ahead and check it out, see if it's any good. The story, the plot in the movie is there's this guy. He's a gymnast, and his father goes overseas to compete in some kind of weird competition that's very secretive. Not a lot of people know about it. Kind of like blood sport. It's not really that well known. But you have several contestants from different countries competing in it, and it's more of like a gauntlet. Like they got to do a series of physical and mental tasks to get past it, and do some fighting to get past them, the gauntlet. Anyways, supposedly his father was working for the government or like CIA or something like that, and he was trying to get some information on these guys that run the place. One guy in particular, who's a known criminal, and is like on a the world's most wanted list, kinda. But this guy, the guy Kerr or whatever, he's really short. He's got the MacGyver hairstyle, and he's just a gymnast. He don't know martial arts. But they decide that they're going to train him a little bit and prepare him so he could infiltrate him. And they figured he would do it because his father's missing in action, so he goes along with it to find out what happens to his father naturally. But there's a princess who supposedly is actually supposed to be in control of the tournament, but she's not. This guy is kind of taking over her supposed kingdom or whatever, and she goes along to help him out. Basically, he goes through a tournament, kills the guy, finds his father, and saves the day, and that's literally the entire movie. It was kind of cheesy. Yeah, this movie's a little bit cheesy, I have to admit. It's pretty cheesy for an 80s flick. And I'm usually able to watch cheesy flicks, but this one almost had me. I almost couldn't make it through it, but I did. It was really cheesy. There's one scene in there, for an example, I'll give you an example. There's one scene where there's some guys with machine guns. They're chasing this kid around on the streets because he looks like a 17-year-old. This guy, he doesn't look like he's 20 years old. He looks 17. Anyway, they're chasing him around, and they come to an alleyway, and he sees this bar. Okay, he sees a bar sticking in the middle, in between these two buildings or whatever. Like it's just stick for no reason. There's no clothes on it or anything like that. It just got powder all over it. So what does he do? He jumps up on the bar and he does some gymnastics on the bar. He kicks these guys left and right and then jumps off. He does gym stuff through most of the movie. He's doing types of flips and gymnastic crap along with martial arts. So it's kind of cheesy. It's corny and cheesy at the same time. Plus, like I said, this guy looks like he's 17 years old. He doesn't look, like a badass or anything like that. It's pretty cheesy. I just letting you know that, I don't know, the fight scenes were very, very choreographed. You could tell. It wasn't that great of a movie. The acting was mediocre at best. The acting wasn't all that great either. But if you like some cheesy martial arts, then this is definitely your type of film. I didn't really care for it all that much. It wasn't really that good as far as I'm concerned, but it's up to you. Everyone has their own opinions. I just didn't care for it. Give it a try if you like cheesy martial arts films, but I'm telling you, it's not very good. Anyways, that's all I have for you this week. This was Action Week. Next week will be Horror Week. So, if you have any suggestions, leave them down in the comments down below. Maybe there's a gem of a movie I missed, I haven't ever seen. I'll try to get back to you on a review on it as soon as possible. tell me what you think about the channel, what else I could do to spruce it up or whatever. If you have any suggestions. Anyways, I told you you'd be told the truth, and you've just been told.